The ticking of the clock nagged at the back of your mind. It didn't help while you sat at your desk, eyeing the clock on the wall, waiting for the day to end. Today wasn't as exciting as you thought it would be, being one of the few days that you were stuck at a desk rather than patrolling the city. Fourth Kind had been fervent about balancing effectiveness at the agency, but that also meant having to take up the desk job every once in a while. You stared at the pile of papers of completed forms regarding reports on your own patrols, as well as any others in the agency. The one thing Fourth Kind was very fervent about, aside from civil service, was prompt paperwork. It was boring if you were being honest. You wanted to be out and about, seeing people, fighting crime, saving a cat. Anything but staring up the hands of the clock, counting down to the end of the day. A yawn caught you off guard while you stretched your limbs up high, spying the seconds counting down on the wall.
How's my best hero?
Boomed a voice from behind, turning your head up and backwards to spot Fourth Kind, with all four arms crossed.
Oh, sir? Boss, hey!
You exclaimed with a grin, waving at the pro hero, still leaning against your chair.
I'll need you to be a part of an operation prepared for downtown Musatafu. You're our best candidate for the job.
Well, that was sudden. And with only 10 minutes and 16 seconds to spare. But your face brightened up at the prospect of being considered for a major operation. It made you fumble a little on your seat, righting yourself to turn towards Fourth Kind properly.
Whoa, really?
You exclaimed, turning your gaze between him and the clock.
Yes, it's being set up for Esaha City. I was originally part of the first wave, but the commission decided to keep us at a distance and put in some young blood.
Explained Fourth Kind, his eyes pensive at the decision.
Made me think of you to take my place. Besides, with your running record of keeping the peace in our small neighborhood, you're a public favorite.
You nervously sighed, pondering on the tiny notion that this choice of his was favoritism over your primary skill set. However, that didn't deter the excitable butterflies in your stomach.
So, what are the deets to this thing?
You asked, noticing the clock still counting down.
Well, that's why I came to fetch you.
Started Fourth Kind.
The meeting's in half an hour at Fat Gum's agency.
What?
The operation is set for tomorrow.
Huh?
Pack your desk down, we set out in 1655 hours.
And with that, Fourth Kind left you to your devices, staring blankly at his large back. Despite his passion for civil service, his promptness wasn't ideal at times, catching you off your game most times in the office. It was also part of the reason why you'd prefer patrols. You stared at the clock, noticing its hands close to the time Fourth Kind had stated earlier before you pulled yourself up from the seat. At the very least, you were given an early mark. The trek to Fat Gum's agency wasn't eventful riding in Fourth Kind's car to the office, but with every turn on the road it made your stomach churn. You tapped your fingers on your lap with anticipation, wondering what this meeting was about. It came too suddenly at the end of the day, and as soon as your eyes landed on the building ahead, you could feel the nerves travel through your limbs. After Fourth Kind parked his car, the both of you entered into Fat Gum's agency, noticing a handful of sidekicks leaving for the day, as well as noticing a small handful of commission agents waiting around the foyer. Along with them was Fat Gum, his burly size hard to miss, while he conversed with who you presumed was a hero. By the look of them, you recognized them as the head of the local hero network, soon watching them excuse themselves from their conversation to take a phone call.
The meeting will start soon in meeting room 1.
Informed Fourth Kind.
Be ready in 10 minutes.
Will do, sir.
You affirmed, finding a smile on Fourth Kind's face before he greeted Fat Gum ahead. After the long drive, you decided to stretch your legs by taking a stroll around the foyer, making note of where the meeting room was held as well as admiring the agency. You've roamed inside once or twice before, but it was on a casual basis. More so because you were involved in hero activities within the bounds of Eijirou City, out of your volition or out of your control. You sighed, remembering the number of paperwork you had to fill. Another bane of pro-hero life. However, that excitable feeling washed over you, anxious to find out what this mission would entail and how you would fit into all of it. After all, you were only a patroller on the street. This was an opportunity to test your mettle in a bigger scheme. You soon found yourself wandering the agency, stumbling across a few sidekicks who passed by, ready to either end the day or start their shifts for the midnight hour. You couldn't imagine anyone who would willingly take graveyard shifts, but shrugged, knowing that that wasn't the kind of life you'd ever want to find yourself in. Stuck in thought, you bumped into a tall figure, taken by surprise by your absent-mindedness. He took a few steps back, hands up in defense, before he uttered a small apology.
Oh, no, that's on me.
You yelled, mirroring the man standing by you with his long blue locks hiding away his eyes.
I wasn't paying attention.
Still sorry about that.
He spoke in a low whisper.
Did I hurt you?
Nah, I'm fine. You have a pretty hefty swing in your shoulder, though.
Is that bad?
Huh? No, I was going to say that you're probably pretty fit.
You smiled up at the man, finding his eyes looking elsewhere, yet he did not budge or make an attempt to leave your vicinity. You stared at him, wondering where you had seen him before. He looked awfully familiar, but with his casual tee and outfit, you couldn't quite place your finger on who he was.
Is something wrong?
He quietly asked, noticing your stare.
Oh, sorry, that's rude of me.
You apologized with a nervous chuckle.
I'll leave you be. Have a great evening.
With that, you continued to walk the halls, leaving the broody man behind. You checked the clock on your phone, seeing that there was 5 minutes left before the meeting was to start. You contemplated if you could take a roundabout route back to the foyer, or just turn your heel and walk back the way you came. Still, you may end up crossing paths with that gentleman again, which wasn't a terrible notion if it wasn't for that nagging feeling at the back of your mind that you had seen him somewhere before. You quickly decided to turn tail, hoping to save a few minutes if you trekked back the way you came, your body swinging on your heel until you crashed into somebody. In the collision, as if by reflex, he grabbed hold of your arm while you did the same, stopping you from falling backwards onto the floor. The rush was mind-boggling. You felt like you walked into a brick wall.
Whoa, hey, you alright?
He asked, concerned for your well-being.
Yeah, I'm fine.
You started, still boggled.
Thanks.
My bad. I should have looked where I was going.
Same. I thought I walked right into...
You shook your head a little before you turned to find a redhead before you, his long locks loosely tied behind his head, while his headband opened his face up with his toothy grin. He appeared a little disheveled, as if he just came out fresh from the showers, but he was built and towered over you in a crisp shirt and track pants. He looked rather friendly though, his bright eyes smiling down at you until he stared into your own stare, his expression curious of your trailing silence while he still kept a hold on you.
Hey, you sure you're okay?
He asked, waving his hand before your eyes to snap you out of your reverie.
What? Yeah, I'm fine.
You piped, shaking your head.
For a minute I thought you had a concussion.
He admitted with a smile.
Glad I'm wrong.
You chuckled nervously in reply, while you reprimanded yourself internally at the embarrassment that soon traveled through your veins. Were you just staring at his chest of all places? And then the feel of his hands on you, as did your hands on his, crossed your mind, releasing yourself from him in realization. In an attempt to keep your thoughts at bay, you pulled out your phone, noticing that you had lost a couple of minutes on the clock. Panic ensued, realizing that this meeting was about to start and you still had to trek back to the foyer.
Well, nice to meet you. Sorry for the trouble. I have to go.
You quickly spoke, running your mouth while you slowly made your way past the man to ready yourself until...
You're part of Fatgum's meeting, yeah?
Asked the man, catching you off guard and holding you in your tracks.
Yeah.
You replied, hoping not to waste any more time, lest Fourth Kind reprimanded you for your lackluster punctuality.
The foyer is quicker to reach down this way,
suggested the redhead, pointing in the other direction.
Really?
Yeah, the agency runs in a loop. It's better than having to walk 3/4 of the way back.
That made so much more sense than to rush back the way you came, adding more time to your dilemma. You quietly turned towards the redhead, walking past him and continuing to do so down the hall.
Thanks.
You quickly piped, hoping to get to the meeting before the man appeared beside you again, walking along with you.
I'm on my way as well, so you don't mind if I join you?
He asked while he rubbed against his neck, rolling his shoulders a little.
Oh yeah, sure, why not?
You quickly spoke, still semi-power walking through the halls, hoping that would shave seconds against the clock. Despite your speed, the man kept pace with you, looking unstressed about the matter. If it was the end of his day, he had it easy, unlike this impromptu meeting that was thrusted upon you.
Wait a minute, you're part of this meeting too?
You asked, spotting a nonchalant look on the man's face.
Oh yeah, Fatgum spoke to me earlier today about it.
He answered with a smile.
Do you happen to know what's going on?
You haven't been briefed about it?
I was only told about this whole thing before 5 this evening, and then the intention of being part of a first wave? But that's about it.
You noticed something change in the man's demeanor, glancing your way before the both of you arrived into the foyer. It was quicker than you had anticipated to reach your destination before you noticed a group of people outside meeting room 1. Along with your boss Fourth Kind and Fatgum, A familiar gentleman spoke casually to the BMI hero by the doors. That soft-spoken man that you bumped into earlier in your wandering. Staring at the two conversing beside each other triggered that nagging feeling again, staring at the scene until it finally clicked where you had seen him before. You didn't recognize Sun Eater out of uniform. Only realizing that fact when you could visually see him next to Fat Gum. You felt your ears warmed with embarrassment, recalling that minor altercation in the hallway, despite it being a to and fro of self-blaming one another. You had spoken words with one of Fat Gum's top heroes. In fact, with one of the most highly sought out and spoken about heroes to graduate from UA in his time. And all you did was just stare. You felt like hiding away between your shoulders, wondering if he was part of the meeting, until you spotted him bidding farewell to Fat Gum, leaving the agency.
There you are,
yelled Fourth Kind from across the foyer, your shoulders stiffening from his harsh tone.
Where have you been?
I'm sorry!
You called back.
I arrived within 10 minutes just like you advised!
You shut your eyes, expecting a knock on your head by one of his many fists, until you felt nothing come your way. You peeked through one of your eyes, finding Fourth Kind looking elsewhere, but with a smirk on his lips.
Well, long time no see.
He spoke, catching your attention.
I'd say the same, Fourth Kind. How have you been?
Spoke the man's cheerful voice next to you.
Doing my part, keeping this one in line.
You felt his words referring to you, a little embarrassed and confused about the current exchange between the men, until the redhead placed a strong hand on your shoulder.
Oh, they're one of yours?
He asked.
My best and brightest, at least on patrol.
Replied Fourth Kind.
Hey!
You retorted.
Come on, folks. Let's get this sorted.
Yelled Fat Gum from afar, leading everyone into the meeting room for this briefing to start.
Get a move on, Red Riot. You're the main focus here. Gotcha. We'll be in soon.
Yelled the redhead. Your heart immediately stopped. Did Fat Gum just call this guy next to you the illustrious?
Nice to chat with you, Red Riot.
Commented Fourth Kind.
We'll see you inside. Sure thing. Can I have a moment?
Requested Red Riot with a smile. You only caught a haughty chuckle from your boss before he strode towards the meeting room, leaving you with the pro hero still with his hand on your shoulder. You felt nothing but sheer and utter embarrassment at your lack of awareness. You blamed the whole day at a desk numbing your faculties, kicking yourself mentally that not only did you not recognize Sun Eater, but you didn't even discern the Red Riot.
Wow, I never knew you were part of his agency.
He started nonchalantly.
Guess it makes sense if you're in the first wave instead of him now. But hey, I guess this is good news. I get to meet my partner before we set off on this mission tomorrow.
Wait, what? Partner?
You piped, still trying to catch up to the situation.
Yeah, I'm leading the first wave and you're my reinforcement. It's just the two of us.
You stared at Red Riot, slack-jawed, speechless from the arrangement. You were being partnered with the Red Riot, the rising pro hero in Fat Gum's agency, only equal to the recent intake of heroes from his academy, no less. You stood there not knowing what you wanted to say. Was it a thank you? Or an honorable mention? You were just a patroller, if anything. Missions were somewhat a pipe dream you hoped to embark on one day, but never had you thought that would arrive tomorrow. With Red Riot. Only Red Riot.
Are you sure you didn't bump your head too hard back there?
He asked with concern.
No. I mean, yes. I'm okay. I'm perfectly fit and ready, Red Riot. Whatever you need, I've got your back.
You blurted out. Just what were you thinking?
Please, call me Kirishima out of uniform.
He gestured with a smile, his hand outstretched before him in greeting. Still in shock and utter waves of nauseating embarrassment, you took his hand, feeling it engulf yours with a hearty shake. Kirishima soon led you towards the meeting room before seating yourself where your name card placed you, still next to him. It only exacerbated that self-consciousness of yours, feeling it implode with every glance of his smile, toothy or not. As the meeting proceeded, you couldn't keep your eyes off of him, finding his cheerful and serious moments both surprising and frightening. A mix of emotions ebbed and flowed. Excitement, mortification, and the feeling that you may have blown your first impressions. You thought best to get yourself out of desk job duties in the future. Thank you for tuning in to another fanfiction reading. If you enjoy what I do or would just prefer to fall asleep to my voice, please hit that like button, ring that bell, and subscribe to my channel. I know I start the way I do, but I have written this one on Kirishima for quite some time and really wanted to, after having written his segment Between a Rock and a Hard Place. It's just these kind of cute meeting moments have a soft spot in my heart, and I really enjoy it. I do hope that I can get into a little more Kirishima written work, but at this point in time, there's a long list. But I do hope that you enjoyed a bit of Kirishima in your lives today, and I hope he comes by to visit soon again. Otherwise, thank you so much for visiting. I hope to hear from you soon, next we meet.